of our people into joining in with them and giving up their birthright. They didn't need the 14th Amendment because they already voted. They were already landowners. They were already this, but all these things changed.
Because you got to remember, it was still a war. The North still
naturalized. Why did they naturalize when they were already the natural Aboriginal people of the land?
Yeah, this goes back to we the largest heritable landowners in the history of the country, but ain't nobody telling us where we get the land. How we get all that land if we wasn't already here?
Right.
Right. We were massive landholders the whole time because we didn't believe in selling land. They used the sweetheart swindle to marry Big Mama off, poison her, and turn Big Mama house into the big house. Then they go hire pale faces as the property managers, as the farm managers. That's why we ain't like the house nigga for real. And then once the pale face started realizing what was going on, he's taking these people's family property and he's turning them into bond servants. Where did they come from? Where did pale face come from? What was the socioeconomic condition of 80% of Europe from 711 AD to 1494? What was their socioeconomic condition? Everybody in Europe wasn't royalty. They were delegated to villages that the crown used at their disposal for using their babies as food and sex toys, using their women as concubines and their harems without their permission. They just go in and take what they want. Right? And this is why they make all of those
years ago where I decided I was no longer going to weigh and measure. And that sounds kind of bitter and harsh, but I really did get to that point where I didn't want to go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, which one of you is going to try to fuck me here? You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to try to weed through to find out that, oh, you are a racist in the long end. You see what I'm saying? So I just kind of pulled back from that society where I was actually very intermingled with it. And the reason why I'm saying this is if it gets to a point when I understand at some point we don't have these bodies or whatever, but if the as above, so below is mirroring, why would I extend the higher I get up in terms of planes and dimensions? Does that make sense?
I don't quite understand what you just said. Say it again.
Okay. When you, because it's surrounding morality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, if you'd asked me 6-7 years ago, any child out here, they should be taken care of. I still believe that. But there's something in the back of my mind now that says, if I were to, like, if you had like 10 children and they all needed a place, they were orphans, I would take all 10 in, right? Like, we're all trying to take care of a village. But part of me would wonder, are some of these people going to harm people that look like me later? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to see long-term morality.
Called projecting victimization from a caregiver.
I'm sorry?
It's projected victimization of a caregiver. But not only you're taking in orphans, some parents feel that way about their own children.
True.
Right? But that's rooted in, I don't trust what I'm teaching this child, and I don't trust what this child is learning in order for them to be good people. Therefore, the effect that it's going to have on them, I don't want to be here to suffer the consequences when the village turned on the child and the child burned the village down. You seeing it in advance, so it's making you have an aversion to your participation because you don't trust what the society has been instilling in the children. Nor do we. The difference is what, instead of me trying to change what the society is teaching the children, I start telling them how to look for the truth. And then once I realize that you've had it, I don't care. I don't care. I go about my business now. Because the youth, when they give them proper instructions, exhibit wiser behavior than the ones miseducated, and they the ones that's going to educate the miseducated correctly. So when I see these youngsters writing songs about their history and they're repeating words that I said about where to look for stuff, and then they going and pulling and making video shorts showing what I'm talking about with visuals now, they taking it to the next level. They able to change the fabric of the developmental pace of the next generation. What we got to do is learn to teach the children so that when we turn them loose as adults, they can operate autonomously. They don't need nobody micromanaging their life because we've instilled in them the skills and the character. The character enforces its own morality. Good character is a lot of times you don't have to be worried about what's morally correct or incorrect because you operating from a place of general goodness. That's why I say the noble character betrays the royal blood. And when you realize that what's in you can alter the world and you have that power by altering yourself, that changes the game for everybody involved. You are viewing the paradigm of the old system as you saw it. Your translation is clear based on what you've seen with your eyes. So now going into a new system, the only thing now is to change the mental paradigm and how you view it, knowing that if you have to be raising 7 children from different backgrounds, it won't even matter, because to teach them to be a good person and to treat people the way you want to be treated and show them examples of it throughout life and be the change you want to see, they're going to automatically pick it up and take it to the next level. And you won't have to worry about what kind of adults they're going to turn out to be because you put goodness in their heart. And I tell the little children that the goodness in their heart is a piece of gold. And the more they do stuff that make their heart glow, make the gold in your heart grow. Be rich when you become an adult. And the stuff that make you feel bad on the inside, that make your gold tarnish. Don't let your gold be in blackened where you can't see the light. It's supposed to always shine. But these people teach you to stop it from shining, and it kills your view of a better future by seeing that wicked past. That's why it's a nightmare. History is a nightmare, right? And the future is the dream. Step out of the nightmare into the dream. Don't live in the past. Use the past to build the future. All the shit that you don't like, don't take that shit into the future. All the good shit, take that with you. Feel good on top of goods, you're going to end up with a bunch of good shit. Use what's useful and discard what's waste. Put everything in its proper receptacle. That includes how you deal with people. Some people are not going to be your people. It's okay to be cordial, be kind, and to kindly step the fuck away from them. And then some people are going to be your people, and you're going to be cordial and be kind and all clucked up with them. Birds of a feather flock together. These my people. They vibe like I vibe. Yeah.
So your approach to that is more of a teaching.
Yeah. Babies
What
don't know
about
how to
other
hate until
people?
they taught how.
Hmm?
Babies don't know how to hate until they taught how to hate. I done seen with my own 2 eyes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So if we don't teach them to hate and just teach them to be good people instead, what we gonna raise? Explain to them why we don't tolerate hate. It won't be in them. You got to instill hate in the child and for the hate to grow and for them to grow up to be some fucked up people like they've been doing. That's the fertilizer. Keep feeding them more hate. Give them every situation, condition, and circumstances in which to hate further.
I won't say I've moved completely, but you shifted me a little bit today, so that's
A
good.
little shift is better than no shift at all, sweetie.
True. I mean, I wasn't trying to be bitter or anything, and I've always walked through life where I don't care if someone's racist towards me. It doesn't bother me. They're not gonna stop me from doing anything. But the problem is when I start seeing things at a bigger bird's eye view, there's just too much of it. It's affecting too many people. Does that make sense?
So
So my
the racist viewpoint was a military strategy rolled out on the people. It's up to the people to break that paradigm. Racism is an illusion. All it is an energy control put into society by the controller. That's all it is.
yeah, but there's people that are affected from the top down,
The,
or from a
the wickedness coming from the top until we switch. The infection that's affecting us is coming from the top. It ain't coming from the bottom. Poor people too
no, I
busy
mean like
being look. Poor people too busy being poor to make somebody else miserable.
so it's just a tentacle of the overall attack, I guess is what you're saying. Just one of the many things that they use.
Right. Look, when you got to use education as a weapon too. And the stuff you train people, teach people is the education you give them. If it's used as a weapon, you got to know how to use it, how to wield it as a weapon. In the education that all of us so-called people in America been given, the organic originals, the $5 imposters, the cat's paw that came over the cover for the dirty players, everybody over here, we are being taught the same hatred, the same bullshit. They telling us how we supposed to feel about other people that we don't even know. I can't hate all pale-faced people because I don't know all pale-faced people. But I can
Could that
tell you,
also be energy leaking?
yes, exactly what it is. It's like riding on a flat. You hating people that don't even know you? That's the heights of ignorance. That's common sense to tell you that's the heights of ignorance. You can't be no more ignorant than that. You hate somebody that you ain't never met based on how they look. That's like hating a book before you ever read. I hate that book. That's the worst book in the world. I wonder why somebody writes some BS like ain't never read it. I read the Bible. I can tell you the Bible is an excellent rollout of the entire. You can use it for every aspect of conquest. The military
You
strategy
can never
in there.
know.
Yeah, the military strategy in there. The rearing of the generals to control the future. It's all in there.
The
I ain't mad
Jesus
at it.
story, he is a military leader. I don't see how people don't see that.
The Jesus story is told to us wrong. It's incorrect in English. It's told to us all wrong. The preachers
Yeah, but if you
deliberately
look at
misleading
it,
the people.
if you look at it and you just read it, that was the weirdest thing that I never understood when I would. Well, I've actually done this with other things too, where I'm like, you did read the sentence, right? Like, I know that he's telling you it means this, but if you read the sentence, or if you can put a picture together, you could see that the Jesus person in there was a militant leader. Sorry, I got that one in high school. Sorry.
Well, it's two different people talking as the character they call in Jesus in the modern Bible. That's why I say it's
That's
written
true.
wrong. You got
Yeah, I have
You
a
got,
lot of people when I told him you could tell that there was multiple GODs throughout the whole book
well, that
itself.
ain't,
I mean, it was like,
yeah, I tell you that in Psalms 82:6, even the character in the red says it's not written ye are gods, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that they have two people talking with two different idea sets.
oh
One is
yeah,
one is always talking this love and harmony and flower child generation bullshit, and the other one talking about we about to fuck this
pick up your arm.
motherfuckers up. I don't give. Go sell off your garments, buy swords and knives. We taking these motherfuckers to war tonight, right?
Van Gogh, somebody.
Yeah. So they got two different characters talking as one person, and this is fucking up the minds of the people because they don't know the original story, so they'll never figure out why is it two different people. They don't even know enough to know that it's two different mindsets just talking in the red. They're not even
Yeah,
that educated.
even even in the Old Testament, you can tell that the Yahweh character changed over time too.
Well, yeah, because a lot of time when they translating as God, it ain't Yahweh, it's Adonai or it's El. Them the whole different personas, but they all translated as God. And if they ain't Lord, it's Baal translates as Lord. It's a couple more of them that translate as Lord. All of the time they saying Lord, they not calling it the same person. All the
Yeah,
time they
type.
saying God in there, and when they translating, you think they're talking about Yahweh. They talking about a whole bunch of different gods. The gods of the Moabites was Chemosh, the mighty one.
Oh, how
He
do you
men-
spell that?
he mentioned in the Bible.
How do you spell that?
CHEMOSH.
You know, I always thought. I'm sorry. We're just chatting. I always thought that it was unusual. You know, like when you go through, when you read the Bible, if you're reading it from a studious standpoint, where you're trying to figure it out. I always thought it was strange that the um, what is it, how do you
Melchizedek.
Melchizedek? Yeah, they only show up twice in the whole Old Testament, but they were very important military times. I was like, who are these people? How come we don't have some more background on this?
That's
So that
because
one always
there's other books that didn't make the canon that it tells you who
what,
Melchizedek, the ancient one, was. They call him in Islam Al-Qadar,
say that
right?
again. I'm
I
sorry.
said that's because there's other books that didn't make the canon.
Yeah, no, but which ones have that order in it?
So the Melchizedek order is the Malachi Zodok, or my angel the just. It's the school of the just angels in English in translation, but it's called the priesthood of Melchizedek. The
That
writings of Melchizedek wouldn't make the Bible because they couldn't be used to deceive people. They could only be used to awaken people.
is
So,
that those tablets that you had that video on?
um, some of those texts are in those tablets, the holy tablets.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
So,
definitely
yeah,
read that
so
one then.
Melchizedek came to Abraham in war. And when Abraham slew the Philistines, he gave him a tenth of his spoils. And that created the standard of what they call in the church tithing.
Which is totally different.
Yeah, but this is where they so-called get it from.
Wasn't that also the angel that showed up for Joshua?
Yeah, because Melchizedek is the just angel,
Okay, yeah.
right?
Where he
So,
had to remove his
right
feet or his
now, what most people don't know is Melchizedek is the angel Michael. And the
Okay.
angels that fall under his command are under the order of Melchizedek. So in the New Testament, and it say like your Lord Jesus, who was made a priest forever after the order of Melchisedec. That means that the character that they call in Jesus was taught by the Melchizedek priest school to be under the command of the Archangel Michael in order to battle the war on earth that started in heaven. So then they're telling you that character was under that priesthood and assigned the mission to come in under the orders of Melchizedek in order to correct some wrongs that people ain't been seeing.
Would it surprise you if I told you that my second near-death experience, I saw somebody that told me they were Michael?
No, it wouldn't shock me at all. It wouldn't shock me at all, but you gotta remember, your psychic perception is steered by your interpretation of what they gave you in the three-dimensional world.
Yeah, because I don't think they would call themselves that now. At that time, I didn't call myself a Christian, but I was studying Christianity.
But that ain't got nothing to do with the church.
Well, I would have framed it in my mind, though, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
My psyche would have put it in that framework.
Yeah. A lot of us think that only Christians and Muslims and Jews talk about angels. Angel means messenger. The implication is that God sent a messenger. But right there in their book, it say, be careful how you treat a stranger, for many has entertained angels unaware. You entertain people coming to help you in your path, but you've been pouring dirt on them, and you didn't even know they was your angel, your messenger. But most of us only view it through the light of the lens that the church painted for us. So we be confused about the information that's coming in, because what the church has influenced us to perceive has been altering our perception on purpose.
They do a good job on that, because they act like some of them are just like they look like the cherubs that they make those little porcelain things out of.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not how they're described. And actually in the wording, they're not described that way. And then my favorite go-to on that was like, did you miss the Gabriel episode where he shut that man's mouth up? He literally was just like, you can't talk anymore. That's an action. I mean, to me, I was like, how can you not comprehend that first of all, that they would have some type of power where he could do that, and then he took an action that most people would take offense to. Does that make sense? Like, this isn't some guy that just brought you some love notes. You know, it's weird.
But most of the time, the ones that have what they call angelic missions, they let you do whatever. They don't give a fuck what you do. They nonchalant with it. Yeah, they not finna try to tell you, don't go fuck that nigga up. Yeah, go ahead, fuck him up. Don't go sleep with that trashy hoe. Go on sleep with her. I ain't got nothing to do with that. Because they only concerned about giving you the message. They ain't concerned about how you live your life.
Right.
There's too many people concerned about other people's opinions that they can't live their own life. And they end up relegated to the gossip circle to spread information. Yeah. All right, sweetie, I'm about to wrap it up now. I think I've been on here longer than you.
Sorry, I was taking up a lot of your time today. I appreciate it.
That's
We went
okay.
a few topics there, so.
Well, I think that you came by a mission. You needed to learn a couple of things. I hope you reviewed this a couple times, because you had some.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
I want to look up that title you mentioned earlier, too.
Okay. And you can inbox me if you have any questions. Stories
Okay.
about Europe and what was going on in
Thank you.
medieval Europe, and how when the king's people came, you terrorized the villagers. And now they looking at this same person that sent them in Europe to terrorize the villagers over here, trying to send them in to terrorize of somebody else's village. And they like, nah, this is not sitting right with us. Some of them went along with it, but a lot of them didn't. And then when the ones that was brought over here and indenture, as they call it, because that's what they called it, because they had paperwork on everybody that moved in Europe. Just like they got paperwork on everybody now in modern America that moved. If you sovereign, ain't nobody supposed to know your every move. That's just basic human respect. Sovereign people respect sovereign boundaries.
Right.
But when you in bondage and servitude and you don't know it, everything you do is suspect because the captor always in fear of you waking up and taking over and leaving him where you at, the bottom.
What about yeah, one other thing that he found in the records. There was something about they wrote they wrote a law, the Pale Faces wrote a law as they were forming their so-called government, that within a year that the indigenous people, which were our people, had to share their land with them, a portion of their land, or if they hadn't done this within a year, that they were going to completely take over the land, which is where it was said in this paperwork where the term sharecropping came. So they wrote their laws and their government, but it shouldn't have mattered to us, but except it had something to do with our land. So they
That's
wanted
what Martin was talking about. When they moved the European peasantry in and undergird them with a foundational structure, they didn't know how to farm the land. Only people that knew. And to this day, the only ones, if you wasn't taught by the people over here, you grow crappy crops. So that's why they paying most of the farmers not to grow crops. It's more farmers paid not to grow crops than sell their crops on the open market.
I do know that. Yeah, which is crazy. And
that's because they want to be able to use the food as a military weapon.
So that's why
the resistance always is predicated on two things: beans and bullets. Feed the people, protect the people. Beans and bullets. Anywhere you go in the world, if you're part of the resistance, all you got to do is listen for that phrase: beans and bullets. What is it about? Beans and bullets. Because that's what it's all about. Feed the people, protect the people. But people don't know how to protect themselves when they don't know who the enemy is.
Right.
And the enemy use every stratagem of war to oppress the people. Oppressed people can be deceived into thinking they're just above oppression because they have some semblance of mobility. Just because you can move around on the land don't mean that you ain't under their thumb. You got to dismantle the corporation, restore the republic in order to move back to the common law, which is the tribal law. Because the corporation stole it from the republic. We didn't do business with the corporation. They did business by themselves.
Right.
They assumed the jurisdiction by order of the crown. They established the bar association by order of the crown. They even came over here under the what they call the doctrine of discovery, with discovery rights by order of the Pope.
The Pope. It's like any place you discover, like that's why they claim Christopher Columbus, who is questionable whether or not he even existed, discovered America. But yeah, there are a lot of pieces that I've been running.
The biggest hole in that story, Dr. G. Where did they say Christopher Columbus was going when he bumped into America? Did they say he was going to India?
India. When he going to India? Or someplace?
You know what the problem with that story is? That story had to be written in the 1900s. Because India was Hindustan up until the 1940s or 50s.
Okay.
It wasn't called India.
Well, if truth be told, we weren't even called Indians. So, that I think where a lot of folks might, differ with that, we Indians, is because that appears to be a label also. Because just like Africa, over in Africa, most of the folks, someone from Africa is not going to say, I'm African. He may say, I'm Ghanaian, I'm Nigerian, I'm, whatever country he hails from. But just like us, like I said, we don't know, I guess, specifically what we called ourselves. but we were tribal and clan-like in our, I guess how we live. And maybe, just maybe, the $5 Indians, so-called, those Indians, would actually try to model themselves after how we lived in that, or maybe they were taught how to do that, but they weren't us. And somebody mentioned about the treaties. The treaties, it seems like that any treaties that were really signed were not signed by us, between us and them, but the $5 Indians, the fake ones, and them. So
Listen,
those aren't even valid.
ain't no chief nothing name on none of them papers.
Right.
They got all of the names that ain't from over here on them papers, because they was making agreements with other Europeans about the dissemination of our territory under the doctrine of discovery.
Right.
Right. They created something called squatters' rights, which is an extension of something called a salvage right. The squatter right is what they use to put the European peasantry on the land. So they're going to tell us the story narrative in the manner that make us think that everything, all this power, is coming from pale-faced Europeans that was powerless in the whole time before they came over here. How they going to come over here and assume power? It's not possible. Somebody lying.
They had help.
You have to. Or they following somebody else's order that's making them out to be the fall guy.
Well, yeah, they had help, because I was told that in I was studying something that said at one point, because I've seen pictures where the paleface and the Aboriginals were working side by side in the fields, like whether or not who was what is what, but you see them both working. And then at some point, just like they had that thing about when were white people created. At that point, they were not white people. They were Europeans from wherever they came from, and now they were here as indentures and
White
whatever.
people don't got nothing to do with skin color.
No, I know, but the white
It's a legal. It's a legal terminology for a reason.
Right, the legal terminology. They decided to create that, and then to create a schism, because at one point we were working side by side in the field, almost, if you will, as equals. And then when they said, look, they look like us, let's elevate them, call them
Especially
something.
the Irish.